Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our Springbok press conference. Team announcement, we've got head coach Jacques Nienaber on the top table right now, and then we'll be joined a little later by Lood the Jager. The forward session was just running a little late, so he will join as soon as he gets back. So I hope you don't mind. Just so that you all know, I think you would have read our media release, how it's going to work, just so that we make it fair for the journalists who are over here. We will take 15 minutes of questions from online, and then we will use the last 15 minutes of the media conference for the media that are in attendance here in Ireland. So please just note that you need to online get your questions in as soon as possible. And then, yes, we will send a recording out as well of the media conference. So you would have all received the team announcement press release by now. So without further ado, let's take the first couple of questions for Jacques. Mubin.
Hi, good afternoon, Jacques. I hope you're well.
I'm good.
Jacques, just a question on 6-2 split on the bench. You guys have gone back to the bomb squad. Is there a reasoning for that? And then just Cheslin Colby at 15. He obviously hasn't played for the Springboks at 15 before. Played for Western Province and the Stormers. Can you tell us the reasoning for that as well? Thanks.
Mubin, no, listen, the reason for the 6-2 split, obviously, we had a good look at the strengths of Ireland, and we feel the combination of the 6-2 split and also the combination that we selected at the back field or the back three is probably going to give us the best possible advantage against Ireland. So, that's the reason for the 6-2 split. We all know Ireland, probably one of their strengths is their multi-phase attack, their fitness, the speed of their breakdown. So obviously, we think that selecting that combinations, will serve us the best. And then your question regarding Cheslin, Cheslin at fullback, he was actually, I would probably say after about 3 or 4 games since he started with us in 2018, Cheslin was always a realistic option for us at 15 and trained at 15 often for us. We were just never forced or forced to play him there, so not forced, but I mean it was never the opportunity for us to play him there. So but like I said, we feel that this specific game, having Cheslin at fullback will serve us the best.
Jan de Koning.
Thank you, Zina. Thank you, Jacques. Jacques, just to follow up on that, I mean, you touched briefly on the threat that Ireland poses with their multi-phase game. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. They obviously pose a threat to their multi-phase game, and no team ever plays to lose. But what aspect of their game do you think threatens you the most, and where you need to be the most careful of going into the game?
Yes, I think if you look at Ireland across the board, there's a reason why they're number 1 currently in the world, and they've beaten New Zealand in New Zealand. I think they've got a well-balanced game. They obviously, everybody sees their attack and how well they attack and how they keep the ball in hand, but you know what? They're the best defensive side in the world currently, conceding the least tries, least points. So, and that's why I don't think you can put your finger on one thing. I think they're well balanced, and that's why they're number 1 in the world, and that's why it's so important not important for us, but that's why it's such a challenge for us as players and as coaches to come and compete against Ireland in Ireland, in the Aviva, which is also a little bit of a, I would say, a fortress for them. So it's a nice challenge a year out before World Cup, in knowing that we're going to play them in our pool stages within the World Cup.
Nathan.
Thank you, Zin. Can you guys hear me? Sorry.
Yep.
Hi, Jacques. Just sticking to the front. Regularly, you had that unit, as you call it, Kitsi, Malcolm, and France on the bench as part of the bomb squad. But now you elevated them to start. Was this decision taken knowing the Ireland's strengths, as you mentioned? They did do fairly well against the ABs as well down in New Zealand.
Sorry, just your question is regarding the props that were normally in the bomb squad that's now starting. That was your question,
Yes,
am I right?
yes, that's correct. And obviously, the Irish team doing very well in New Zealand. I mean, do you use that as a factor as well?
Yeah, and I think if you look at the front row that we've gone with, it's probably if you look at the last couple of games that or last couple of test matches that we've played, we went with consistency there. And like I said, I think the combinations that we selected in terms of the guys starting and the guys coming off the bench, I think those combinations are probably best suited for us in trying to combat the strengths and to utilize our opportunities playing against Ireland.
Right?
Thanks, Nina. Hi, Jacques. Hope you're well. Just going back to Cheslin, does he also cover as fly half for this game? I know Billy's on the bench, can also play there. And also, it's just maybe the smallest back three you've chosen in a long while with Kirtley and Cheslin in terms of sort of sheer height when you think of Kane and Moody or Philly himself. Is there anything to read into that as well?
Your first question was regarding does Cheslin cover fly off us?
Yeah.
Yes. Obviously, with us going with a 6-2 split, Cheslin will be our fly off cover, and he's obviously with us doing roadmaps on the players and doing performance analysis, he's been utilized. Although it is at top 14 level or club level, he's been utilized as fly-off often, especially for Toulouse. When the French team managed Inzamam, he stepped in and played fly-off for them quite often. Obviously he's a very skillful player, and that's the nice thing, having the versatility of a guy like Cheslin that can play fullback for you, can play wing for you, can cover you at fly-off. And especially if you want to utilize a 6-2 split, that's quite important. And then in terms of the back three, the only difference there is probably, I think, I don't know, I probably, I don't know the centimeters, but probably Cheslin is a little bit shorter than Billy, but Mapimpi is still the same. And when we played against New Zealand, obviously, Kirtley was there. So, I think they probably in stature a little bit shorter than what we used to, but unfortunately or not, that's with Kane being out, that's the cards we've been dealt with. And I'm comfortable that they will be able to handle whatever Ireland throws their way.
Russell?
Hi there, Jacques, nice to meet you. Just a couple of a two-pronged question, if I can. First of all, is there a different dynamic to the game, given the fact you're both in the same World Cup group? Are the little moves, things you need to work on that you almost need to keep aside and not show and keep your powder dry? I wondered that. And also just the question of the statement for the Springboks to come to the Northern Hemisphere, and with the World Cup to come, with a huge series of games to come, how important is it to put in a massive, big first performance against that top team in the world?
Russell, yes, I think for both teams, I mean, this will be quite a big game, especially if you have a little bit of a eye on the World Cup. We obviously are contesting pools against each other, or against each other in the same pool. So I think from both sides, it will be quite important for them and for us to have a proper performance. And in terms, and like I've mentioned before, I think it is pretty much, I think, what you would like a year out before World Cup. You want to play the number one team in the world away from home, and you want to test yourself against them. And feeding on and moving on to your follow-up question in terms of how big the series is, yes, or this end of year tour for us is, we are playing some proper teams. Ireland week 1, number 1 in the world. Then the French, Six Nations champion, week 2 in the world. Then we play Italy, and we all saw what Italy did in the Six Nations against Wales in the last game. And then we move on to England, who's I don't know where they're at currently, but this is exactly, I think, what you need. What we are happy that we have a tour like this, because before the before you go into a World Cup. And I think for everybody, this will be a big tour for us, for Ireland, for England, for all the teams that's touring, New Zealand, Australia, because you want to build some momentum going into the World Cup.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Z. Hello, Jacques. Hi, Lood. Jacques, just on the newbies that you have in the squad, how tempting was it to give some of them a run in the first game, or was it just to first pick the strongest side, get the November tests on the roll with them?
Yeah, Lethan, I think the thing with the younger guys, I think a lot of coaches in this on this end of year tour for a lot of nations will have some younger players within their squad, because I think some of us will still have. Maybe you're still looking. You settled with your number 1 and 2 choice, but you want to find out who's number 3. Hopefully, you settled with number 1 and 2 choice, and you maybe want some answers on your number 3. But I reckon there's different ways in how you can introduce your newbies. I think if you go back to what we did in the second Test match against Wales in Bloemfontein, we introduced a whole lot of them in one game. And then the other way is how we did it now, I would say, in the Rugby Championship, where you introduce one new player in a settled environment, like we did with a guy like Kirtley, with Kanan. So, yeah, we introduce them one by one. So I think, we will probably go that route if there is some answers that we need in certain positions. And I think the guys, yes, we are certainly happy with the effort they're putting in currently and the energy they bring within training sessions. But I think they'll probably, depending on how things work out and depending on injuries and a lot of factors, we will probably introduce them as we see it fit. And sometimes your hands is for, sometimes it is not. So we've got they're with us, they're working hard, and we will introduce them whenever we feel the time's right.
Guys, unfortunately, we are running out of time for the online section questions. So what I am going to do just for our media at home in Afrikaans is just ask Jacques to just sum up your team announcement in Afrikaans. And then Lood, for you, just, what are you expecting in this game against Ireland in Afrikaans?
Weet jy, dis vir ons dit gaan vir ons eerstens oor die toets teen Ierland in Ierland. Dit gaan 'n lekker uitdaging vir ons wees. Ierland is tans nommer 1 in die wêreld, jy weet. Hulle het New Zealand gewen vir die eerste keer in hulle geskiedenis. En ons verwag 'n tawwe stryd teen Ierland. En dan ook in terme van die span wat ons gekies het, ek dink as mens kyk na die kombinasies, veral in ons agterste 3, en jy kyk na die 6-2 split wat ons gekies het en die kombinasies wat op die bank is, dink ons dit is die kombinasies wat vir ons die beste gaan dien teen Ierland en teen die strengths wat Ierland gaan bied. En ons sien baie uit na die wedstryd.
Ja, ek dink vir ons as spelers te groot toets, jaar uit van 'n wêreldbeker jaar, en soos coach Jacques gesê, dit is ons gaan hê, en so dit is vir ons, ek dink om hulle weggeneem is om te speel, en hulle het baie momente na hulle in New Zealand gewen het in New Zealand. Hulle is goeie span, hulle is goed afgerig, ek dink dit is 'n goeie toets. Kyk waar staan ons.
Thank you, guys. We are now taking questions from the floor. We are going to leave the computer online, so you will get the answers. And then we'll send out the recording a little later. So if you don't mind, please just switch off your microphone so that we don't get any sound from your side. And then any questions from the floor?
Yeah, like I said, I think the key thing for us is we had a good look at, obviously had a good look at Ireland and the challenges they pose to us, and we feel that combination with the Kwagga and the Dion, on the bench will serve us probably in this game the best. They're a dynamic team that likes quick ball, and we will have the breakdown's going to be a big issue or big focus point in this game, I think, for both teams. And it's probably the combination that we think will serve us the best. Yeah. Yes, I would say in the last couple of, I think in the last 8 test matches, they lost twice. They lost against, if I'm mistaken, I think they lost the first test against New Zealand, obviously, and then they lost against France in France. So yeah, they looked a lot more comfortable when they played England. So yeah, I think it's obviously something that we will look at. It's something that fits our profile athletically. We've got some big forwards, big players, and we've got a specific style that we play. And just as they would like to handle that, we must handle their agility and their speed and their quickness. So I think that's why it's going to be such an awesome game. It's probably going to be this nice test match between these two unions, and we haven't played here for a while. Last time was I think 17, so quite looking forward.
But talking about 2017, remember that feeling in the dress box that at 38 we lost in the last time with the box?
Yeah, it's hard to forget. I think it was a tough day. Low point for us as a team, but yeah, it was 5 years ago, and I think experience now it's still going to be a really tough challenge. Yeah, hopefully the office.
I did in creative ways to.
Yes, I think we obviously had a look at that. Like you said, they are a clever team. Big plans, little subtle things that can throw you off. So we've had a look at what they've done basically this year. And yeah, if we kind of got an idea of more time.
Yeah, I think there will always be changes. Even with us, I mean, we make subtle changes. You think in the World Cup between the semi-final and the final, I think most teams do have the ability to change up a little bit, and I'm sure they will. But obviously, you've got a athletic profile and a skills profile that sits within your team, which gives your team the way they do things. And so I think majority will be. They will do what they do because they're good at that. That's why they're number one in the world. It's always tough to move away from stuff that you do and you're the best in the world in it at that stage, So why would you change? But there will be changes. Like Lood said, they're a clever side. They will make specific plans for us. The challenge for us is how do we adapt with it to those changes on the field. To be honest, I didn't analyze the Joe Schmidt one to that extent because did have a quick look at them because there was a possibility that we could play them in the quarterfinal, but that didn't materialize, and so yeah, I can't. Like Lood said, I think they're a well-coached side. I know what they know what they want to do and what they're good at, and they do that really, really well. And then they bring that little bit of element of surprise within their game.
A long time ago, Jay Point said that there was an Irish guy who would not get into this team. Tell us, as world champions, that's what I would. Why are we there? Or why are we in a situation where the worst of all
I think the way they do things, I think if you look at Ireland, I think they've got, if I'm not mistaken, and I might be mistaken, they've got 200 rugby players, professional contracted players. So there's a lot of effort that goes into their players and into the coaching. So it's almost like precision farming. You know, they when they identify a player in their junior ranks, they really put time and effort into a guy, into a player to develop him, to develop his skill set and help him to reach his full potential. I think that's a strength. That's what Ireland are currently good at. They are if you look at their skill set, they've got a good skill set in all facets of the game. Like I said, everybody sees Ireland's good at that. But in the Six Nations, we did 12 points per test match in the Six Nations, which was the best in the Six Nations. So they're the best at the defensive side in the Northern Hemisphere by far. So yeah, they pretty balanced across the board.
Just have to explain you left template from which you pull all your work. You just quickly tell us what you want.
Yes, I think the URC, obviously, with us coaching here, I think the URC is probably in my opinion, one of the most exciting competitions that I've ever coached in, because the subtle variance in terms of playing a Scottish team with a Scottish flavour, and then you play a Welsh club with a Welsh flavour, then you play an Irish club with an Irish flavour, then you play Italy club with the Italian flavour. So you have to adapt how you coach consistently, week in, week out, and then also the officials. Then you have a Welsh official, then an Irish official, then I probably think the adaptability, it teaches you to adapt as a coach, as a player, because some days you will play on a 4G pitch, then it's a grass pitch, then you play in beautiful weather like now, then 10 minutes later it can be lashing with rain. So your ability to adapt your game and your decision making to speak to all those things that I've mentioned now, I think that's the beauty of the URC.
Where did you rate Ireland as a line-out team?
I rate them highly. I think they've got good line-out jumpers, and you can see they do the analysis on teams. So I think they're right up there in the normal. They're one of the best line-out attacking and defensive. Yeah, I think it does give you confidence. I think certain combinations, certain plays that come a long way together in the forward pack. The guys coming off the bench with equal quality and different attributes that make them position in their own ways for us. But it's your last game, so you can't rely too much on that. Out in previous game, any of that.
Did you get any insights from Jason Jenkins?
Not too much. I haven't seen him in a long time, so we've just been catching up on old bull stories and just had a couple of chats.
No, I don't think we'll go there. The thing about Jason, I've coached Jason and RG actually. They were the locks in 2015 Junior World Cup in Italy. So Jason was the 4 and RG was the 5. And then when myself and Rassie actually went back to South Africa, the first test match against Wales, Jason started. And then the second test match against England that we coached together, RG started. And then RG had an absolute blinder against England. And there was only, like Lood said now, there was 4 spots for locks, and it was Eben and it was Lood, and then you've got Franco Moster, and there was 1 slot open, and obviously then we decided to go with RG. And then we went, but unfortunately now RG last played with us in the World Cup, and it's been 2 years or how many years now, and the reason was we just couldn't wait longer. So those two were always in the mix, and I think maybe RG pipped him a little bit back then in the day. But yeah, it's nice to have him back. He's playing good rugby. I think he also had a little bit of injury woes with Munster. Didn't get too much game time, but seems like he's over that now, and he got a couple of starts for Leinster and has been really playing well. Glad for him. And then, yeah, we obviously we've got another Salman, the youngster. Like I said, with the youngsters or the younger players, we always like to have three competitive guys in one position, and we've got we probably, and unfortunately for a guy like Salman, we've got a guy like Eben there, who's probably, in my opinion, playing really good rugby, and yeah.
It's not a question. I'm just saying, is he in your mind if he's around?
Yeah, no, Dwayne is, and we had a nice conversation with Dwayne. You know, I don't think, if you look at Dwayne and his age profile and his experience, he's not a guy that probably needs more experience. He's a guy that we probably need to manage from a physical and athletic point of view to get him to the World Cup. You know, so and that gave us the opportunity. And there's a couple of players of us which we made that decision on. You know, so they probably don't need extra experience in this 4 test matches, but getting them to the World Cup's probably the challenge. But that opened up the opportunity for us to get some younger players into the mix and expose them to our environment.
Guys, thank you so much. We are wrapping up this section of the press conference. I'll send out the recording a little later. Thank you. Bye.
Good.